school, when we started looking at the data, we found that we were rewarding bad behavior unintentionally. If you got 3 tardies, you got to go to ISS. And then if you went to ISS 3 times, you got a day of OSS. So if you didn't come to school on time, we're going to send you home to play video games. We also found out that tobacco use was a problem. And we had a group of boys that about every Thursday or Friday after lunch were getting caught dipping and going to ISS. We found out it also coincided with their math test. Shock. And we realized that our focus should be on real consequences and preserving that instruction. So this is what we did. If you're in ISS, we're going to send one of my students who are students with disabilities down to ISS to get you. And they're going to escort you down to that math class. And then if you go to social studies, they will escort you to your 4 core classes. What you're going to miss is your socialization with your friends. You are going to miss your lunch time with your buddies. You're going to miss your auto tech. You're going to miss ag, the stuff you really want to do. We found out that cut our in-school suspension rate, especially with that one group, dramatically. Tardies. If instead of taking you out of the classroom, we did a thing called attention. You had a choice of morning or afternoon. That's for the kids that work. I do the morning detention at 6:45 in the morning. We call that sunrise service. If you're going to be tardy for school or you're going to get in trouble, minor things, then you get to come to sunrise service with Miss Brewster at 6:45 in the morning. And we're going to talk about your behavior and ways to change it and things you can do. And we do teach some of those social skills. You know, just because you think your teacher was inappropriate with you does not mean that you be inappropriate with them. We talk about how to get an advocate and the right thing to do. But we found out that by making sure the children know that we are serious about instruction, our ISS time and OSS has been greatly reduced.
Thank you. Here's some data that you might want to share with your faculty or your team. The cost and time for 1,000 annual referrals, 1,500 hours. Can you afford to lose that much time? Some of your faculty may have different approaches. We call it the historical approach because it's some of us people that trained way back and we were taught different ways of dealing with discipline. Sometimes many negative ways that we found don't work anymore. Amongst them being the inconsistent expectations, disproving comments, and just really negative reactions to the student's behavior, as opposed to positive reactions to positive behavior and encouraging students. And of course, as we've been mentioning, teaching students the appropriate behaviors and the appropriate social skills. Everybody has members of their faculty that are still kind of stuck in these old techniques. Some of them are very verbal about it and they will let you know they don't agree with this modern way. Some of them are, I call it passive aggressive, they're passively not doing them. So discuss among your team, how can you switch the faculty from their negative approach to it to a positive way? What can you do with these people? Thank you. It's exciting for me to see how y'all are sharing ideas of what's working in your school. And I think the different tables realize who on your faculty, I think you've realized who on your faculty you're going to be working with on some of these issues. One of the tables I was listening to was saying how it helps for the teachers to know that when they handle the problems themselves, that it shows that they have the power, as opposed to sending a student to an office does make a teacher perhaps look a little weaker and that she can't do something about it. I thought that was a real interesting comment. These are some components of positive discipline that when you go back, you want to look at your policies and see, do your policies have these in place? Do your procedures? This is a list of practices that you'll want to talk about with your team. How many of these practices are being implemented in your school? Another strategy we wanted to share with you today, which may be difficult for you to implement, and that would be is the actual teaching your students the social skills, teaching them appropriate behavior. I'm not talking about just saying what it is, but teaching them how to do it. Are any of you able to do that? Do any of you have that incorporated right now in your schools? When you're looking at the targeted kids that are in your subgroup, they may be the SWD students that are misbehaving and that's why they're missing instruction. These kids may not know the behaviors or how to implement the expected behaviors. If you have a high percentage, and everybody's increasing, of kids with Asperger's, which is on the autism spectrum, they do have to literally be taught, folks. They don't get it on their own. So they may have to be literally taught. And the schools we've worked with are finding different ways of doing it, like a lunch bunch session, or those of you that have clubs, perhaps some time instructing during the club period, or pull them out from some clubs for certain times to be learning that. But some of these kids, they do need for you to teach it to them, or assign a peer mentor that could help with that. Another encouraging strategy would be if your faculty's been through the Ruby Payne cultural awareness curriculum, and that's something that may help too for you to understand, for your faculty to understand the populations. Tomorrow, the speaker from the middle school is going to talk with us about some interesting things he has done with his faculty on understanding the culture in the community that he works with. If a child doesn't know how to read or doesn't know how to do math, we teach them. We teach them the specifics and the steps. If a child doesn't know how to swim, we teach them. If he doesn't know how to drive, we teach them. If a child doesn't know how to behave, why do we often hesitate in answering that? Well, our first response isn't that we will teach them how to behave or the appropriate behaviors. We just teach them that we want it, but not how to. So it's not as automatic, and it's something that's needed, and I think we're seeing that today. I think the main concept here that we encourage you to remind your faculty when you're talking about different approaches is that any change or any new program that you'll be working with is going to take time. And we tend to want to see, I think it's today's culture, we tend to want to see results right away, but sometimes it'll take several weeks or months to see a change so don't give up on some of the initiatives that you're implementing.
I think some of the important things that we sometimes overlook is that we want our expectations for all environments within the school setting. We want to make those students aware of that and knowledgeable about that, as well as the staff, and that everybody's on the same page, because if students don't know what is expected of them, then, well, they're going to try not to do it anyway, but they're certainly not going to do it if they don't know what's expected of them, and if you're not consistent across the board with all of that. So that's important for the students to actually be able to meet your expectations, is that everybody knows what those expectations are, that everybody is consistent with carrying them out, and that the one thing that we really need to remember is these targeted students that we're going to focus on, it is going to take a long time, but we're going to have something there to encourage them, even with slight improvements. We're not going to see huge improvements overnight.